Zaha Hassan. She's a visiting fellow at Carnegie Endowment's Middle East program, and she joins me in the studio here. Zaha, really appreciate you being with us. Abbas came to the UN seeking a solution. What role do you see the United Nations playing at this point?
Well, he came to the UN seeking to have a vote on a resolution. Unfortunately, that resolution, which really reaffirms past positions of the UN Security Council, they couldn't get enough consensus around the draft. And so instead of being able to follow up on the conversation that they had at the UN Security Council today on the Trump peace plan, they just focused on reaffirming verbally rather than through the draft resolution that was tabled. So that was unfortunate, but I think Abu Mazen, the Palestinian president's purpose in coming to the UN was to get the world to rally around the international parameters for a just resolution to the conflict. He wasn't able to get that in writing in a resolution form, but what you heard today among all of the Security Council members that spoke was a reaffirmation that in order to have a viable solution to the conflict, you needed to have Palestinians on board. And there are UN Security Council resolutions that speak to this issue. And so you got at least that confirmation by the UN Security Council, with the exception, of course, of the United States that was very much there to advocate that resolution, or that, I'm sorry, was to advocate the Trump plan.
Right. The U.S. plan essentially foresees a 4-year period in which Palestinians are supposed to, I guess, debate, and then at the end of that 4 years, they either sign up or they're left out. Do you see the Palestinian position changing at all in that period of time?
Look, I mean, what the Trump plan calls for is for, first of all the final status issues to have been resolved before there's any getting to negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. There's no sovereignty, no Palestinian right to return, no control at all over the Palestinian areas, and a complete annexation of about 60% of the West Bank for settlements. So before Palestinians and Israelis were to even get to the point of negotiations, that was something that Palestinians had to accept. And then Palestinians not only had to accept that, but they were going to be given 4 years, as you noted, to meet certain benchmarks that only Israel could verify that they had achieved. And that relates to Palestinian governance. That relates to getting Hamas out of Gaza and Palestinian Authority retaking control over Gaza. I mean, things that were going to be impossible for the Palestinian Authority to achieve in 4 years in any case. So really the plan was set up for Palestinians to be unable to achieve them. But in the meantime, Israel was going to have everything that it had always wanted in terms of a peace with Palestinians, and like I said, all of the final status issues resolved in their favor. So it was never really a plan for Palestinians. It was more of a memorandum of understanding between the United States and Israel about how much territory Israel could annex that the U.S. would then recognize.
What do you think Abbas was realistically hoping to get out of this visit to the United Nations, and what role do you see the UN playing in this conflict going forward?
I mean, so, you know, Abbas, before he came to the UN, had gone to the Arab League, and he got the Arab League to reject the Trump plan. He went to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and he got them to 57 member states to reject the Trump plan. The EU came out against the Trump plan, not in more diplomatic terms than the Arab League, but also reaffirming the international parameters for peace. The African Union similarly came out rejecting the Trump plan. So Abbas was coming to the UN to get the Security Council's rejection of the Trump plan. He did not get the resolution, as I said, that he wanted. But what he did get, and you heard it from every single person that spoke in the Security Council, was that the UN is not ready to let go of the international parameters. And so I think he achieved at least that. International consensus has been reaffirmed, and no one's going to operate under the Trump peace plan without Palestinian consent, and that's not in the coming.
Zaha Hassan, really appreciate your expertise and perspective.
Thanks
for coming on.